we're going to talk about Tennessee's basketball team beating Texas A&M, and doing so, I thought, in very efficient fashion. What did you think of the win as Tennessee's basketball team fights for that number 1 seed?
You mean, what did I think of the win in which Zakai Zeigler played a flawless game that an unselfish point guard is supposed to play, but Rick Barnes still didn't pull him until 4 minutes left when it was a 30-point game?
Fair. I didn't know you were going to
Yes.
come out of the chute with that. I was going to go ahead and apologize for saying that Zakai Zeigler drove me crazy before the season started. I'm going to backtrack on that. That guy's pretty darn good.
I mean, he's incredible.
Why did he do that?
Why did Barnes do that?
But why didn't he sub him earlier is what I'm asking.
Because Rick Barnes is not, he is so principled, he doesn't want to sub players because that means he's going to have to play players that he doesn't believe should play. This is about teaching them a lesson that they shouldn't be on the court unless they do right by practice. That's all that's about. And it's annoying. First of all, put your walk-ons in then, okay? Because you're not losing that game, right, Dave? 10 minutes to go, that game is in the bag. And this is... it drives me crazy. I've been criticizing this about Rick Barnes for a long time, but I'll start with the positive. I mean, I just want to tout Zakai Zeigler again real quick. He had 14 assists. He only had 9 points and 9 rebounds, but who cares? He had 14 assists and, ready for this, guys? 4 steals, no turnovers. That's an insane stat line, isn't it? 14, 4, 0. On top of that, Texas A&M's best player is the guy he was guarding, who is Wade Taylor IV. Taylor averages 18.5 points a game. He was held to 11 on 3 of 12 shooting, and that was all because of Zakai Zeigler's defense. So Zakai did everything. Now, also, the interior was exactly what Tennessee needed. They did exactly that. They won exactly the way we said they should win, Dave. They used their muscle because Jonas Adu had 18 and 14 down low. Toby Awaka had 12 and 6 off the bench. Dalton Connect was Dalton Connect, 24 points as the primary scorer. Zakai Zeigler was the point guard and the distributor. And the hot hand from 3 was Santiago Vescovi, and you always got to find one hot hand. He was 2 of 4 and got 6 points out of it. That's their formula for winning. Score inside, don't connect scores when they can't get anything, and then find the one hot hand in the game outside of connect.
If you had a bet, I'm not saying it's going to cost them a game, but if you had a bet that there's going to be a Sunday game where Zakai Zeigler is gassed, what would you bet on that? Again, I want to thank our friends at Sports Treasures for having me down to interview Brew McCoy. That was phenomenal. They've got more coming up with Dylan Sampson as well. So go ahead and follow them on Facebook. Go to Sports Treasures TN and follow them, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia daily updates. That is going to be the saddest of the sad, isn't it? If Zakai Zeigler is tired on a Saturday, Sunday game, the second of a weekend in the NCAA tournament, and he is not 100%. Because he's given his all for Tennessee, and he's not an NBA player. Might be. But this is a guy who you love that you might be running into the ground, which is sad.
That's exactly what's happening. It's like, football, Dave, you're a Cowboy fan, so you know this very well with DeMarco Murray. Remember when they were giving DeMarco Murray, what was it? How many carries a game were they? It was insane, wasn't it? And then he was just beaten up by the playoffs, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that with Zakai Zeigler. And who does Tennessee have up next? They have Auburn on Wednesday. Bruce Pearl is famous for up-tempo basketball. He literally brought up-tempo basketball to the SEC. So you're going to tire Zakai Zeigler out. Then they visit Alabama, who also plays up-tempo basketball. So their next 2 games, Auburn and Alabama, Zakai Zeigler is going to have to be running a lot, and you're going to have to keep Zakai Zeigler on the court if you want to win those games. I mean, guys, Rick Barnes really dropped the ball on this, and I don't get it. And by the way, I don't want to hear anybody say, because people are going to say this, you respect Zakai Zeigler's competitive will. Apparently, Zakai Zeigler's been trying to play 40 minutes a game. He doesn't want to stop playing. And here's the issue. It shouldn't matter if the player wants to stop playing. The coach needs to step in and say, sorry, I need you in the postseason.
Agreed. You have to do that. I love your idea of the walk-ons, by the way, because I didn't have an answer before you just said that. If a guy's not practicing hard, then don't play. I do believe in that philosophically. Throw the walk-ons in there. That's fine.
Yeah,
I'm cool with that.
Walk-ons in there.
And that sends a statement to you guys, better get off your duffs and practice a little bit harder. Colton says maybe they'll get bounced in the conference tournament and get rest, LOL. Colton, you say that, but I think that would be best case scenario if they got bounced early in the conference tournament. And Ron Slay even admitted to us that there were times where they kind of thought that themselves. And that team was horrible in the conference tournament, but good in the NCAA tournament. Colton's joking. He's got the LOL next to it. But if you're a Tennessee fan, it's hard not to root for them to lose and get some more rest before the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and there's competing philosophies on this because, as you remember, Bobby Knight did not care about conference tournaments whatsoever. Bobby Knight would just throw them up and say, forget it. But Coach K took the ACC tournament extremely seriously. I mean, Coach K was very much keep playing at a high level, and it worked for him. And it's not like Duke wasn't making run. Coach K believed that if you take off, then if you take those games off, then the habits creep in when the tournament comes. I don't know where your philosophy lands, Dave. If it's just get the I mean, if you take it off, can you get can you develop bad habits out of that being off for so long?
I think it depends on the maturity of your team and your leadership, and you've got to be able to judge that. I think Tennessee, when they had Jerry Green as a head coach, they didn't have the leadership that they needed to just kind of in the conference tournament and then come up big in the NCAA tournament. I mean, they had success, don't get me wrong, but not the same amount of success. You look at these next 4 games for Tennessee. Wow. Auburn at home. That's a date night for Dave, by the way, taking the lovely Mrs. Hooker to the Thompson Bowling Arena, not the Kroger Center. Also, Alabama, they will play at Tuscaloosa on Saturday, then at South Carolina, and that will be next Wednesday. And then Kentucky at home at Thompson Bowling Arena, brought to you by Kroger's. Caleb, that's a pretty brutal stretch. I mean, South Carolina is very good for those that don't follow basketball closely. Kentucky is always going to be talented, and Auburn's Bruce Pearl. I mean, that's a tough stretch.
Extremely tough stretch. And this is for, I mean, Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina, and Auburn are all in the running for the SEC regular season title, along with Tennessee. Tennessee could get some huge breathing room Wednesday. If they beat Auburn, South Carolina that same day has to visit Texas A&M. And even though Tennessee just beat Texas A&M is much better at home. So if South Carolina were to lose to Texas A&M, although I will say this, Texas A&M has actually been playing awful as of recently. Ever since they got that win over Tennessee, I guess that was back. Matter of fact, Tennessee's the last game they won. That 85-69 win over Tennessee is the last game they won.
Mm-hmm.
So South Carolina's not losing to Texas A&M. I take that back. But still, beating Auburn could give Tennessee a huge leg up in the SEC standings. And look, I think an SEC regular season title still carries some value. I think you could at least celebrate that to a certain degree. So I think there's something to be said about that.
I'd rather win the regular season than the tournament. Well, I'm sure you're the same, right?
I'm exactly the same.
Okay.
I'm exactly the same. One of the things I don't understand is those smaller conferences. You know, the ones that the tiny ones where only the conference tournament champion goes. I don't understand why they have tournaments. They should have their champion of their regular season go, because that's the team most likely to get them noise in the tournament, isn't it? Not the one that got red hot in 3 days.
Well, true. But that's all about money.